subscribe.
Any of those places they run had this air of menace, this feeling that violence could erupt at any moment, and violence on a very ruthless scale. I mean, they quite like the cut and thrust of close combat. They just loved that stabbing and smashing and punching and kicking. That was their go. Ronnie Kray was, of course, the sort of dominant twin, and he was also mad.
Ronnie was definitely crazy, you know. He was subject to mood, quick turns of mood. Now, one night, there was a guy in the Kentucky said to him, "Ron, I think you better go to the country because you're putting on a bit of weight." So he said, "Yeah, come, I want to talk to you. Go in the toilet," and he cut him so badly, give him 76 stitches. Right? We called the guy Tramlines after that, you know. And it was just for that, for saying that, you know. But had he been in a good mood, he would have said, "Yeah, you're probably right," and laughed it off.
When I looked at Ronnie and Reggie, I could tell immediately, always, they had this violence in them. If necessary. They definitely had it, and in abundance.
They were dangerous people, and they weren't the kind of people that you'd mess around with. If you messed around with them, then you was going to get it.
They had that aura about them, and they were powerful, yeah, there's no doubt about it.
If they hurt people, they like people to be around them and see it. And this was putting fear into people in the East End. Oh, they were violent, all right, cool, yeah. Charlie was different altogether. Charlie I respected. Charlie Krays, he'd never let you swear in front of women if he was in his company. Charlie Kray was a gentleman. He couldn't help it, because the twins were his brothers. You know, you can't blame a man for that.
Their mother indulged show wonderful twins, no matter how bad their behaviour.
She most probably was a bit too lenient, but mums are like that, aren't they? You know, she loved them so much she couldn't see any wrong with them. Ronnie was like the stronger personality, really, I suppose, more forward, whereas Reggie was a bit more laid back. But even then, and that's exactly how it was as they got older. The same thing, but Ronnie was the leading light even then.
Soon the twins realised this was where their genius lay, not in planning robberies, but in the application of violence.
They weren't sophisticated guys, they were ordinary guys, ordinary London fellas. No, they wasn't big, brainy businessmen. They're ordinary guys, but dangerous.
Ronnie would get up in the morning, yeah, and some mornings he'd come down, he'd be all happy, ha ha ha, and that morning he'd come down, sit in the chair, and pull a face, and he'd sit there, and you couldn't talk to him. That's how he was. And if he was nice in the morning, he'd have got someone on the night, and if he was horrible in the morning, he'd be all happy on the night.
The twins were beginning to make money, but they continued to live at home with their mum in Valence Road. They christened the house Fort Valence and even invited their lawyer around for tea.
I went to Fort Valence on a couple of occasions and was entertained by Violet in a very formal way, and Ronnie would pour the tea, you know, rather like the Queen Mother.
Gradually, reality and myth dissolved into the same thing for the Krays. They wanted to be movie star gangsters. They even dressed like them. Especially George Raft, who became frontman for a mafia gambling club in London.
Ronnie fell in love with him. And, you know, a lot of it, if you look at old footage of Ronnie, you can see that he's trying to dress and look and talk like George Raft. It's rather touching.
Like their heroes, the Krays wanted to be big shots. They wanted to conquer London's West End, where there were rich pickings to be had from upmarket nightclubs and casinos. As they climbed the ladder of success, each step was accompanied by the generous use of violence. By the late 60s, London's most notorious gangsters, the Kray twins, appeared to have it all. They owned nightclubs and ran protection on casinos. They held it all together by the increasing use of violence, and the money kept rolling in.
You spent money as it came in. As money came in, they would do it. I don't think they had a bank account. I've never known Reggie want to write a cheque out.
The twins were generous with other people's money. They splashed it around the East End. It helped to create an image.
The public in the East End rather welcomed them, I think, because they kept some sort of order in the streets. And they had this rather sentimental way of giving to old people's charities and paying for everybody's bill in the pub and that sort of thing.
The twins were living for the day, but time had a cruel trick in store for them. For many years their personalities had been growing apart, each becoming more and more at odds with the other. The problem was Ron. He was becoming more unstable, more violent, and more domineering.
No one could control him. I mean, the only one that could control him was his mother. No one else.
He's a bit like Rasputin, you know, he's way out, he's unusual. That does become very, very scary. And he was scary, he could be scary, they both could, but Ron especially.
If he was going to come in here now and cut you or shoot you, he'd do it. And no, all the talking, he didn't take notes of no one. You know, even Reggie, he was dominated by him, wasn't he? Really, we all knew that.
Ron trusted no one except his brother. He thought everyone was plotting against him.
As they got older, I think Reggie was the saner of the two. Reggie got thinner and very anxious looking. You could see he was living on his nerves. Ronnie didn't live in the real world at all.
How much money do you think came into the firm, on average? It's probably an impossible question to answer, but...
Many thousands of pounds. I know many, well, quite considerable sums passed through my hands that went to them.
In fact, justice caught up with you and you went to prison.
Well, this is it, yes. Well, this is a penalty you pay.
How did they look after you when you were in prison?
Well, when I was away at the time, if I wanted anything inside, because they got the firm inside as well as outside, of course, if I was short of anything, or if I wanted anything done, like one time a person that did turn me over outside while I was still inside, if you understand what I mean. And of course I sent a message out, and the person that did turn me over was turned over himself by the members of the firm.
You mean beaten up?
Oh, so yeah, severely.
So how was discipline maintained in the firm?
Well, discipline was maintained in various aspects. I myself was disciplined once.
How?
Well, as I say, through business and everything else. I was in my office and they come up to see me. According to Reggie, I wasn't doing things right and that the money wasn't coming in quick enough. I argued with him. Through the argument, I took a slap round the face and pushed into a chair. Yes,
you were
my
slapped
left. Oh,
by
yes.
Reggie.
Yes.
You're a big man. You can presumably look after yourself. What did you do?
Well, what could I do? I mean, I know bigger men than me that bow down to them.
If you were slapped by the twins, you didn't slap back.
Oh, nobody did. I've yet to see men who ever come up. There's only one man I know that did retaliate, but of course they got him in the end, and they cut him to pieces.
The twins' pension. If you did any business with them, if you actually went on a bit of business and there was money involved, you got a slice of that. Plus I could eat and drink for nothing, and I could get my clothes made to measure next to nothing. If you needed a car, you just went to a car site and frightened the governor and pulled one off the front for a couple of weeks and run it into the ground. Hardly any expenses. I was then put in charge of collecting the weekly payments from different clubs and places. And from that I would pay out the pensions. I'd be told who to pay, and if somebody was out of favour they wouldn't get paid that week.
Greek guys one day came and started demanding money with menaces from him, and Ronnie chased him all over Mile End with a sword, and that got about like wildfire, which it does in the East End, and they never got arrested over it, but it stopped the problems.
The rumour was floating about the East End that these two young tearaways out of Valence Road was, you know, going into pubs, picking on people, picking on little teams, because the East End and the West End was dotted about with all little teams. Each little area, like the Watney Street mob, you had the Commercial Street mob, you had the Limehouse mob, the Poplar mob, all little mobs, all very handy people.
Gambling was still illegal, but the East End was riddled with spielers, tiny one-room clubs outside the law and ripe for protection. Through the mid-50s, the Krays empire grew to encompass fraud and extortion. Their gang was now known as the Firm.
One night it was packed out, a brick come through the window. Of course, East End, they know it's trouble once a brick comes through your window. You know, there's problems. Of course, they're all scattered, wallop. And a guy who was in the club at the time said, "Bill, you want to go down and see the twins? Sort this out with you. You can have problems." I said, "Oh, I will." And Ronnie come right over. He said, "It'd be a pony a week," which them days was a lot of money. £25, a lot of money. Well, Charlie was a joking bloke, very nice fella. My opinion, never was a villain and never would have been a villain. Reggie, you look at him in his eyes, you smell fear, and fear came over Ronnie, you know, oozed out of him. He had a smile, almost take you two ways. Either he's smiling at you because you're going to get hurt, or he's smiling at you because he likes you. I mean, Ronnie would be laughing and joking about, all of a sudden, he'd pick on you.
On the 5th of March 1969, both Ronnie and Reggie Kray were found guilty of the charges brought against them.
I wasn't surprised at all. I expected. They said they would get 30 years. They told the barrister, they told the screws in prison in Brixton they would get 30 years, and they did.
Aunt Violet, myself and Mum was in the kitchen and we was listening to the wireless, and when it came on that they got 30 years, you know, we was dumbstruck, really. We couldn't believe it, like, and Aunt Violet looked at Mother and she said, "Oh, I think they've made a mistake." She said, "I'm sure they have." She said, "Maybe they'll say later, like, it's not so long."
It amazes me that a gang that was so badly organised, badly thought out, badly managed, could be so successful. The only way it worked was because their public relations was brilliant.
I feel they were a part of the 60s, like the minicar and Twiggy and other things. You know, they were a part of it.
Billy Hill and Jack Spot had a sort of notoriety, but they hardly promoted themselves, and the other notorious East End villains, Burke and Hare, went about their murdering fairly quietly, and Jack the Ripper may have left a note, but he was hardly exactly photographed with royal.
They attracted people to them. You know, people who they should look up to finished up looking up to them, sort of thing. And Ronnie, he was his own man, you know. Nobody was going to tell him what to do. He was the boss.
He was much more a gangster for the thrill of being dominant and powerful rather than money. And perhaps this was expedited by his mental condition that took pleasure in violence, and of course this was a factor in their ultimate downfall.
What's special about the Kray twins compared to any other gangsters is simply that they were twins. I don't think there'll ever be criminals like them again. They're like Romulus and Remus. It was only the existence of the other that made the one.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please join our Facebook group. It's called Krays Crime Lords of London. We're a friendly moderated group with over 1,000 Kray and other celebrated gangster videos available for view. There's also thousands of images in the photos sections. The link for the group is in the YouTube description section. I hope we see you there soon.
Leave a like and subscribe.